freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome back to the First Cut Podcast. My name's Kyle Porter. We have a lot to talk about today, and we're gonna go just too wide. We kind of just got done with an electric Travelers Championship tournament that seems to deliver more often than not. And I've got Greg DuCharme here to talk about it. Greg, how we doing, man?
I'm doing great. I think you used the right word there, Kyle. Electric. It certainly was. It was unexpected in many ways. Kind of felt like we were going to get a Scheffler runaway. Then all of a sudden it's not. And then all of a sudden there's a new hole location getting cut for a playoff. I mean, this was a wild finish to a great tournament. And, what else can you say? But what a week.
Well, of course. And that's a little bit of what I'm getting at with the Travelers is I think it often delivers in unexpected ways, right? You think about some of the really just interesting moments over the last 10 years, and the Spieth bunker shot was kind of unexpected. Harris English going to an 8-hole playoff with Kramer Hickok was certainly unexpected. It's been a kind of a long run of, hey, we know we're getting something awesome this week, but we have absolutely no idea what it's going to be.
Right. And last year too, you get Keegan Bradley, who wasn't necessarily unexpected, but it was a big deal given that he's a New England kid and it's considered a hometown event for him. So that was a really big deal for Keegan as well. So it delivers great finishes because the finishing holes are phenomenal. You can make a birdie on any hole in the back nine.
Yeah.
And it leaves you with the opportunity to see 59, like we saw yesterday with Cam Young, who goes out and shoots 30 on his front nine today. I mean, his last three, he had 3 consecutive 9-hole scores of 28, 31, 30. That's sicko.
Yeah, he played. So I'm glad we're actually gonna start there with Cam Young. He played 27 holes in 89 shots. Right? Am I doing that math right? 27 holes, 89 shots, shot 59 and then 30. That's usually like the over under for my 18, and he did it in 27. So okay. So let's start with Cam Young. He goes out, he shoots 59 on Saturday, and kind of gets himself into the mix. It was a little bit of a fake near the top of the leaderboard number because he went out so early, and then a lot of guys got up to him on an easy golf course by the end of the day, but he was still super impressive. Shoots 30 on the front on Sunday. Was there ever a moment where you thought, Greg, hey, Cam Young could actually win this golf tournament?
Well, after the birdie at 11, he gets to 18, and I'm kind of thinking, well, 20, I didn't think that anybody would beat Keegan's record from last year of 23 under. So I kind of thought if you got to 22 or 23, you would win or get in a playoff. And he's at 18 under through 11 holes. Like he can make 4 more birdies. I didn't foresee the double coming at 12. He doesn't make birdie at 13. Doesn't capitalize on 14 or 15 as well, which you can make birdies on. He does finish off with a couple of birdies on 17 and 18, but yeah, he needed to kind of continue the pace of yesterday, those 27 consecutive holes. But I did, quite frankly, think it was possible.
Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, the double bogey really kind of undid it. That was actually the first hole that I was off on Saturday. I was involved in some youth baseball festivities, so I didn't see his 59. Actually, Patrick McDonald was writing about it, covering it. I flip on the golf today, and first hole I see Cam Young pull one left and make double, and I'm like, this isn't that impressive. Like, what's everybody like making a big deal about? And so that kind of ejected him. But I thought what was so interesting about sort of the ending of this tournament, Greg, is how many guys were. I mean, at one point you had, I think, 5 guys tied for the lead. And I'm curious from your perspective, was it always Scottie, or was it, hey, Tom Hoagie, if he finishes this out, Akshay's kind of in it? Was like, where was your head at as all those guys were kind of coming down the stretch at TPC River Highlands?
Definitely Scottie. But the interesting thing about it is when scores are available the way they are at the Travelers, crazy things can happen.
Mhm.
It's something that Patrick and I talked about on Friday night. Like you can get some unexpected runs from the back, and people just start putting up numbers that don't seem realistic. And so part of that was in my head, like, one of these guys really could just outrun Scottie in a sprint, like a Monday qualifier kind of sprint. But my head really was, well, Scottie's going to win unless something outrageous happens. And it's set up for something outrageous to happen.
Yeah, and that was sort of where I was at as well and this is an interesting discussion that we can have about the golf course itself, but the reason that I always think Scottie's going to win is because he makes better decisions and manages the course better than everybody else. But at a place like TPC River Highlands, where you don't necessarily have to have those as part of your formula to win, you can kind of go pedal to the metal and just see where the chips fall. I kind of thought could be Big Tone, could be Akshay, could be Tom Kim, and yet we did end up getting a situation where Big Tone hits it in the water on 16 and Akshay kind of falls off, hits a squirrely drive on 14. And you're like, oh yeah, Scottie just keeps making the best decisions and managing the course the best. I mean, it's not a golf course that lent itself to that specific skill set of Scottie's, and it still turned out that way in the end.
Yes. Well, and you realize too that a part of the course management is also the execution, right? The ability to not just aim at the middle of the green, but hit it at the middle of the green. I mean, Scottie hit an incredible amount of greens this week, and fairways as well. Like he hits 10 or more fairways every day. He hits 14 or more greens every day. He hits 64 greens. So like he's not stressing very often in this golf tournament. Everything is in control. So it looks like, well, Scottie's moving along at a very comfortable pace. Like he's walking 18 holes, and everybody else to keep up has to sprint. And they're going to run out of energy a lot faster than Scottie Scheffler, who just keeps on going. And that's what happened today.
Yeah, I did. Scottie, by the way, he was second in greens in regulation for the week and third in driving accuracy. So that's problematic for the field.
Yeah. Like that is that good course management or just perfect execution?
Well, I think it's I don't know. I mean, you're better on like the course management stuff than I am, because I think the perspective that you have of having played at a competitive level, I just don't understand it as well as guys like you or some of the other people in golf media that have played. I've only ever played recreationally, and so I can talk about course management. I know enough to be dangerous, but I don't like deeply understand it the way that you would, where you're looking at a hole and you're like, okay, well, this is where I would miss if I was sort of like at this level of Scottie Scheffler. But then it's also execution as well. I think it has to be some of both, right?
Yeah, you hit it, but I do think that course management is a part of the execution. Like I think the course management makes the execution easier.
Yes,
because you're putting yourself in a position with the decision that you make, with the club that you have in your hand, where you feel good about every shot. Like, this is the right play. You're not like, I think I can get 9 there. Well, you've done that, right?
I do that all the time. That's what Tony did on 16 too. It was like, I mean, I don't know what happened there, but it just looked like, I mean, that shot wasn't even close. And that was the point. I was rooting for Tony. I had him in the betting. We'll go over betting cards here in a minute, but I had him at 28-1. He's playing great golf, hitting great approach shots, great iron play. He's not even really driving it that well right now, but it doesn't matter because he's hitting it so good with his irons. And he hits the shot on 16, and you're like, that's not even in the ballpark.
No. But and that's because you're trying to squeeze too much out of something.
Yeah.
Right? That's when these guys hit terrible shots. when they try to do something that's out over their skis a little bit. Scottie never does that.
Well, and that's where right after that, I know Scottie didn't get to that hole for, I don't know, 30 or 40 minutes after that, but he hits his approach shot right over the pin, 20 feet for birdie. And you're like, oh yeah, of course.
Oh, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to talk about the ending and just everything that kind of went on with Tom Kim and Scottie and the playoff and the protesters and the chaos and all that. But first, let's hit an ad break and hear a word from our partners. Okay, we're back. And my love for golf is back. I had a real US Open hangover last week, Greg, and I think it took until about 2 or 3 Eastern on Sunday afternoon until it dissipated.
So you really wanted to get into this thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then we got a really fun Tom Kim, Scottie Scheffler duel. I don't know if that's the right word. One of the interesting narratives on Sunday, and I want to get your take on this. Tom Kim and Scottie were very chummy, very buddy, talking a bunch. People were kind of critical of that. I think on both sides. I don't, maybe more so on the Tom Kim side because it seemed like he was the one that was initiating. What's your opinion on all that? Like, where do you stand on that?
Well, look, these guys play a lot of golf together. In Dallas, they're very close friends. Scottie said that in his post-round press conference. They're going to get pizza together on their birthday because they share a birthday. So they're hanging out all the time. And I don't think that when you're in competition on a Sunday, you should turn it into something that it's not. Right? You want to try to make the round feel as normal as possible. And I'm sure when they play together, they compete. And they're trying to beat each other. And I'm sure they have some pretty awesome duels, back home practicing. So I don't think there's an issue with the friendship and showing that on the golf course in competition, especially when you see the shots that they hit on each other coming down the stretch.
Yeah. I thought it was a little bit, I don't know. I think I generally think the buddy culture on the PGA Tour it's a little much. Like, I'd like to see guys kind of go at each other a little more, but this one in particular, it was a little, I don't know. It seemed overblown and not a ton there. I'd like to start on the 14th hole. Scottie hits one basically pin high, just an awesome shot into 14. Second birdie in a row, and you start thinking, okay, Finau's messing up 16. Akshay's not really doing anything. Tom Hoagie doesn't have any holes left. This feels like Scottie, right? And so he birdies 14. He hits a great drive on 15, basically pin high, probably 40 feet out to the right. Just a really solid golf shot into 15, the drivable par 4. They both birdie 15. And you go to 16, and Scottie's got a 1-shot lead with 3 holes left. And you're thinking at this point, okay, like, I've seen this movie I've gone to the theater several times over the last, 3 months, and I've seen it a bunch. And it was kind of how it was going. Tom Kim didn't birdie 16 or 17, and then they get to 18. And Tom Kim has an approach shot that I thought was just awesome. I mean, his approach into 18 was sweet. What were you thinking whenever he hits this shot and gets it to, I mean, it almost went in and he kind of spins back to about 10 feet.
Yeah. Worried a little bit about spinning it too much. If you're going to hit a sand wedge really hard, like, you're thinking about your carry distance. If you're smashing a sand wedge, is it going to rip back? But I guess they had enough help with the wind that they didn't think that was going to be a problem. So I was very impressed with their ability to talk through that and commit. I wish they would have done it on a couple occasions a little faster. But because Tom was taking his time out there, it seemed like to me. But they got it right, and I have to give him a lot of credit for that. So it's a big time moment. Scottie's got a putt where he's not going to make a bogey. So this is for Tom Kim. This is it. All the chips are on the table. I either get this up and down, or I go home without a trophy. And he gets it up and down. He hit it right at the flag. It was an awesome shot.
You mentioned, you said they. I know you're referencing Paul Tesori, Tom Kim's caddy, who has been with Webb Simpson, been with Vijay Singh, he's been with Cam Young for a little bit last year. He's had a really great career as a caddy. A caddy's helpfulness in that situation, overrated, underrated, or properly rated?
Well, remember what we were talking about with Scottie Scheffler, right? And how course management is so related to execution. Getting the player to buy in and think, I got the right club here, is a big deal. And if you can do that, if the player struggles with that on their own, and you can make them feel comfortable with the right decision, it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
It's probably, it's a terrible answer, Kyle. It's like player dependent.
Yeah.
Some guys need some help. Some guys, they're going to hit the shot. If you give them the wrong club, they're going to knock it close. There are just some, like, that's one thing that Austin Johnson used to say about DJ. Like, you could miss club him by 20 yards. He just sees it and feels it, and he'll hit it close anyway. So a little bit of it is player dependent. I think in that situation for Tom Kim, they're a little between the wind change. It dies down. They decide to still go for it and hit it. And I think that speaks to Tom Kim's commitment and the proper decision that they made together.
Yeah. So he hits it, like we said, to 10 feet. Scottie's on the fringe area ish. And then, they say the Travelers doesn't start until the protesters come out on the 72nd hole. So, it was a very, it was kind of weird in that it felt like not really a big deal. They got rid of him quickly. And then you're like, wait a second, there's kind of like a lot that just happened, and it kind of disrupted not just the pace of play, which I agree with you about Tom Kim, and not just the moment, but also the green.
Yeah.
Right. We've got a photo of it here. If you're watching on YouTube, this is a very normal sport moment, very strange, just bizarre thing. Have you ever experienced or seen anything like this before, Greg?
No. I've seen these protesters at like Wimbledon and stuff like that, but nothing like this, Kyle. This is, the image of Tom Kim, Tom Kim ends up coming in second, but he has a putt on the 18th hole to force a playoff on the 72nd hole. And this kind of moment has a chance to be a very famous moment for a long time. Yeah. And in the image of that putt, there's red spray paint on the green right next to him. So, at least it's Travelers colors, but come on.
Good point.
I've never seen anything like that. And, they obviously do a great job of figuring out what to do, how to make, how to go around the spray paint so we could finish this tournament that we started early because of weather, which is just funny because this could have become a real pain if the weather rolled in and they had to stop and play this playoff tomorrow. This would have been a part of it. So anyway, they decided to change the hole location, which is just a brilliant move. I thought it was the Travelers doing the right thing again, like they always seem to do.
Yeah, we'll get to that in the playoff in a minute, but I'm curious about, so at this point in the tournament, you hear guys talk a lot about They can't stay locked in 100% of the time because you just get exhausted. Like you just wear yourself out. You're emotionally and mentally exhausted, right? You have to get locked in, get out of it, get locked in, get out of it throughout, the course of a tournament. Do you think at this point of a tournament where it's the last hole, you're in it, you need birdie to win, you need whatever par to get to a playoff, or if you're Scottie, Akshay needs to hole something out. Is that locked in nature? Is it increasing in amount of time, or is it is it sort of your same routine that you've had throughout the tournament?
No, I think when you're on the 72nd hole, the tension and intensity has increased.
Okay.
Now there may be, and your focus is increased.
Okay.
Tremendously. I think there are some tricks you may use to kind of break the tension part of it, at least. But those are just little distractions. Like you see Tom Kim and Scottie Scheffler laughing at this. I mean, there's a lot of different things you could laugh about with this situation up on the green. But part of that is, all right, well, I don't know how to handle this. So why don't we have a chuckle and then we'll get back in the zone here in a minute once this gets sorted out. But what is going on? And why are there police on the green again?
Coming for Scottie again.
Yeah. Going. What do you think Scottie was thinking?
Probably some words that I shouldn't repeat on here. That was my intuition as well. And I think that's what, like to me, if you're Tom Kim, you don't get out of the mindset that you had when you twirled and chased after that shot. You're in that until you hit the putt, but he was forced out of it by this chaos. And so I thought it actually made him making that putt even more impressive than it was. I mean, to get up and down from where he was already impressive when he had to do it. But I thought it made it even maybe a little bit more impressive than it otherwise would have been.
Because it took 30 minutes or more for that up and down to happen. That's a serious thing. If you played in a charity outing and it takes a really long time to play, or a local tournament and the pace is really long, I mean, that is so different than the driving range rhythm or the normal rhythm of a round playing with your buddies on a golf course that's not too busy. It becomes a big challenge to get ready to hit a single shot at a single moment. Like at a carnival. I picture it like a carnival. Okay, come on down. You're going to hit a sand wedge from 130 yards.
Yes.
Oh, you get 6 points. Okay, now you go and do whatever else is going on at the carnival, ride the Ferris wheel, get a funnel cake, come back, and now you got a 6-foot putt to make.
Yeah.
And if you do, you win the biggest stuffed animal at the place.
I mean, it looked like it looked like a carnival out there. So I think that's an appropriate that's an appropriate illusion there. So Tom Kim makes the putt, obviously gets to a playoff. I thought it was. I think what's interesting about Tom Kim, I don't know that he has the gifts that like a Rory has, or that's probably an unfair comp, even like a Justin Thomas has. But man, he's got some intangibles that you're like, I think there's something there, And to me, it's been on repeat for like 2 or 3 years now. President's Cup stuff, this, to where you're like, okay, I don't know how high the ceiling is, but I might have underestimated what the floor is. Like, I think the floor is kind of high, right?
Well, what the cool thing about him is, he's not afraid of winning.
Right.
Like I haven't seen him back down. So he loses to Scottie Scheffler in this tournament, but he got beat. He didn't back down.
Yep.
At all. And I think that is an intangible that's worth more than any, because you can't close out a tournament if you don't have that intangible.
Yeah.
And he'll close out tournaments when he gets in the mix.
Yeah, which I think is, again, that's sort of the floor that I'm alluding to. Is I think it's very high for Tom Kim. So they go to a playoff, kind of a anticlimactic playoff. The interesting part to me is they recut this hole. It's closer to the front bunker, and Tom Kim dumps his approach shot in the bunker. So you could argue, hey, this whole protest, chaos, everything that happened, they recut the hole, which I think everybody was totally fine with. It affected the playoff.
Yeah, it did. I've never seen that before, except like an 18-hole playoff. They have new hole locations for the Monday finish, like Tiger and Rocco.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different scenario. It's a different
Yes.
round of golf. This is, we're going to cut a new hole location and play it right now. Never seen that before. And so I think it absolutely affected the whole location. Players got down there. They went to see it. Tom Kim hit a different club he hit a lob wedge instead of sand wedge like he hit before.
Mm-hmm.
So that right there, that tells you why, because the whole location's shorter. So he wanted to get it a little closer, thought lob wedge could get there, and it didn't.
Well, it's an aggressive play too, which I think, again, Scottie's making the mature adult decision of going a little bit deep and making sure he's not messing around with that bunker and giving himself a very easy 2-putt. And Tom Kim's like, well, I mean, I don't know how many holes I can go with Scottie. I might as well take a rip at it, right?
Yeah, and that's an important mindset to have in a playoff, and I think it's the correct mindset.
Yeah.
I'm sure he felt like us, but if this could just not be an 8-hole playoff, that'd be great. I'd like to win it. And so that's what you're trying to do. Also, from the fairway, I bet you Scottie's approach shot looked like it was tight.
Yeah.
It landed right next to the hole.
Mm-hmm.
It was a sweet pitching wedge that he hit in there.
Yeah.
So that definitely played a little role too. Okay, Scottie's tight. I got to make a birdie if I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, didn't work out. Got a fried egg, had to pitch out to 36 feet. And yeah, that's tough. That's a tough lie right there.
Dead flat.
So he pitched up to 36 feet, makes 5 there. Scottie goes on to win. I'm curious, Greg, I think the most impressive thing about Scottie's year at this point is that he's made winning he's just normalized winning, and it seems routine, it seems rote, it seems almost boring. Like I think about my just casual golf friends that would tune in and be like, oh, Scottie won again. Like, okay, I guess we're on to the next one. And I think about how many times, even on this podcast, we've said like, God, winning's so hard, right? Like we've said that about 50 different guys, and you're using it a little bit as not an excuse, but it's just a truth. And we say it when guys like kick away a tournament or can't close it out or whatever. With Scottie, I know it doesn't always go this way. Like sometimes he's going to lose this playoff, but man, he's just like made winning seem routine. And I think that's the most extraordinary thing a professional golfer can do.
Yes, I think you're right on the button. I mean, again, I look at this like some kind of endurance race, and the amount of energy that he expels to play 72 holes to compete in a playoff just seems to be so much less than everybody else. And so it's not like this frantic panicking climb to the 72nd hole. It's like we're just going, and trophies kind of end up they just kind of end up with me. It's not like I won. I never feel like this is a peak. Like I've been working to reach this peak. It's like he's on a plateau, and it just includes a lot of wins. But it's flat walking for him. It's unbelievable to see. And not a lot of guys have won 6 times in a single season on the PGA Tour.
You know what helps with that plateau, Greg? Finishing second on the week in greens and regulation and third in driving accuracy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's no stress.
Well, and it's what you're talking about earlier of like, okay, we can talk about the intangibles or closing or whatever, but it's all predicated upon the execution, right? Can you execute the shot? And he's right now, and for the year has been the best at and probably for 2 years has been the best at executing. And when you can do that, you can build some other stuff off of it, right? You can take a chance here, or you can pull back over here. It just is his foundation, his baseline is just insane. And we're seeing, winning having become a very routine thing because of it.
Yeah. It's great to watch. And I'm glad you mentioned those greens of regulation and fairway stats, because we talked about this on Thursday about his approach numbers.
Yeah,
And
they were okay.
They were okay, right?
Yeah.
He ends up 6th. Like, he gains 4 strokes approaching the green. It's like, oh, well, that's fine. He had 64 greens, but if he's got a sand wedge in his hand, and in order to gain strokes on the field, you got to hit it close. But he doesn't like the hole location, or it doesn't like his lie. He doesn't like something, the wind. He just won't hit it at the flag.
Yep.
And he's great. He's so disciplined in that. So he never feels like, I'm not sure if this is the right play. I know, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to hit it in the middle of the green. We'll move on. Yeah. And he does it over the course of a week. There's enough of those. There's enough that he likes. And it becomes a math problem. Like, how many holes is it going to take for me to pull away from the field? It's incredible.
It is incredible. It's a math problem that most of the other guys in the world can't figure out. It almost reminds me of a ace pitcher going down to AA and getting a rehab start. And you're like, oh, well, Garrett Cole's facing the Newfoundland Twins team, and what are you gonna do? I don't think Newfoundland has a baseball team, but
yeah, Rick would know better than I. He probably has the hat if they do.
The Peoria Cubs. Like, oh, Garrett Cole's in town. Like, what do you want? Yeah.
What does he do? What's he doing here?
But Scottie's doing it against like Xander and like the other best player. I mean, I think that's one of the crazy things. I want to get your take on what your favorite sort of Scottie stat or figure is after we take a break here in a second. But I'll leave people with this before we go to break. He's of the 13 like strongest fields of the year. So there's been 13 tournaments that are like have the basically the best players in the world. He's won 6 of them this year, and everybody else in the world combined has won 7. So it's just it does feel like he's a major leaguer playing in the minor leagues, but he's not. He's a major leaguer playing in the major leagues, and he's still doing it. So we'll come back. We'll give each of our favorite Scottie stats or numbers or figures that we've seen. But first, let's take a break and hear a word from our partners.
Well, you need your sports news anywhere?
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
Okay, Greg, give me your favorite Scottie stat, figure, number, comp that you've seen.
This may not be what you were thinking. All right.
Whatever.
This comes to my mind. I just typed in, because I wasn't sure of the exact number, how many junior tournaments did Scottie Scheffler win?
Oh.
And it pops up and it says, to say Scheffler was a dominant force in junior golf would be an understatement. From 2004 to 2010, he won nearly 60% of his starts on the Northern Texas PGA Junior Tour, for a staggering total of 74 victories.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And this is, I think he won some more on like the AJGA as well. I heard a figure of 96. I'm not sure what that time frame was. Here nor there. The point is, Scottie dominated the players that he was playing against as a junior.
Yeah.
And then they all get older. And then all of it, and he still is beating them all the time. And then all of a sudden, they all come out onto the PGA Tour together. And now those guys that are losing to Scottie in junior events are now losing to him in PGA Tour events. And it's like the age, he's gotten to the age where these are the guys that are in their prime.
Yeah.
And he's just always beat them. And he just continues to beat them.
Yeah, it's your Daniel Bergers, it's your Morikawas, your guys like that, and kind of the 27 to 31 range.
Yeah.
My favorite is another guy that I don't think this guy has beat him in any tournament that they've played together this year. But Ricky Fowler.
Ricky Fowler.
There we go. who almost made a 1 on a par 5 on a par not a par 5 on a par 4 today, which was crazy. Ricky Fowler, since he turned pro, I think he turned pro late 2011. I know he was a pro like the beginning of 2012. So I went back to the beginning of 2012. He's won 6 PGA Tour events. Very good career. He's 35 years old now. He's won 1 Players. Players is a big deal. I think it's kind of underrated as a championship win. And he's won no majors. Famously, infamously, whatever. In the last 100 days, Scottie Scheffler, 6 PGA Tour wins, 1 Players, and 1 major. So more majors than Fowler. He's basically had Ricky Fowler's career in the last 100 days.
Oh,
which is that's not like I feel that on Twitter and people are like, oh, why is Ricky taking straights? It's not a shot at Ricky. Ricky's had a very good career, like
right.
a career that I like most pros would just like love to have. And
Yeah,
Scottie's had it. And Scottie's had it over the last 3.5 months, basically.
All right. So this is another one that I really liked. And I thought this was going to be a great stat after the US Open. But Josh shared this week. This season, Scottie Scheffler's official money on the PGA Tour is 54th in career money all time.
Just since January 1.
Yeah. Yep. And now I know that purses are inflated. There it is.
Yeah, but
you're talking about an entire career in 1 year. There's an exemption. Like you can play another year on the PGA Tour if you've had. The idea is a long enough career to be top 50 in official money. If you have a little downtime, they reward you for all the success that you've had, and you can get exempt to play because of top 50. He's almost done it in 1 year.
6 months. There's still 2 months left, Greg. There's still 2 months left in the season.
June.
I think, yeah, it's you're right that the purses are inflated. I would love to see, and I don't think this is an official stat. I think I just went back and looked at it a bunch, but percentage of purses or percentage of money available won, I think is a very interesting number because that sort of it normalizes what you're like the inflation and everything else.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't have that off the top of my head. I don't even know if it's a real stat. I think I was finding the stat at some point, but that would be a really interesting. What we just talked about this on HQ. What's the Scottie ceiling? Can he get to 9? Can he get to 8?
So let's think about his schedule a little bit. My guess would be he'll play Scottish and Open, and then Olympics, and then 3 playoff events.
I forgot about Olympics. Does that count?
I don't think it counts though.
I don't think it counts for PGA Tour
wins,
but it does count for OWGR.
No, you're right. You're right. You get OWGR points for it.
Yes. Producer Josh said he's maybe not playing the Scottish.
Oh, his next planned start is the Open right now. Okay.
So that would be Open, Olympics, 3 playoff events.
3 playoff. Yeah. So if you take the Olympics out for PGA Tour stuff, you're talking about 4 more events.
Yeah. So you'd have to win.
I mean,
3 of 4.
10 would be the ceiling, which would give him 10 wins and 2 majors in 1 year if he swept from here out, which is probably a stretch.
It is a stretch. If he wins 10 times and 2 majors this year, it's the greatest PGA Tour season of all time.
It's real close with Tiger 2009 wins and 3 majors.
Yeah, I think the argument against this, and I was thinking about this today because Live was kind of happening in conjunction with this PGA Tour event. I think I have some like the argument against this is that they've been small fields without Rahm, Bryson, Cam Smith. I don't even know who else is playing well on Live. DJ is not playing that well. Throw Taylor Gooch in there, but really like your big dogs like Rahm, Bryson, and Cam Smith, right? But it's not just that, Greg. I think it's also the size of the field because think about let's say you double the Travelers field, there's probably 1 or 2 guys in that extra 70 that could make a run at 22 under. I'm not saying they're going to beat Scottie. I'm not saying that they're going to play better than Scottie. I'm just saying it feels, this is what would dissuade you against getting like this being one of the great seasons of all time, is because of the size of field and sort of the guys that are not playing in some of these tournaments.
Yeah, I think that's fair to some extent. Now, on the other side of the coin, these players who are competing are very incentivized to play well and compete and win. I think that's a portion of it. He's won 2 of these limited fields. Right, the Memorial's a slightly bigger field. The API is a slightly bigger field with the small cut.
Mm-hmm.
So
it just is. Like, it's a little like, I'm not saying it's a big deal, and I think that, the other thing is like when Tiger was winning in the 2000s, or you look at VJ in 2004, they didn't have signature events that everybody was playing in, right? Like you would have guys take off a Memorial or a Bay Hill because that was not a place that they loved playing,
Right. And it wasn't a huge difference in the purse. It might be like, well, this is the Memorial's an $8 million purse, and and the Travelers is a $6.5 million purse.
Right.
Like, okay, well, I'm gonna if I play better at the Travelers than I do at Muirfield Village, well, I'm gonna make more money playing, even though the purse is smaller.
Yeah,
because I'm gonna play better. I have no chance there. That is not the case now. You got to play when you get into these things.
So maybe that all nets out. Maybe it's just all like.
Yeah, I tend to think it does, especially when you add in a Players Championship, which has everybody except Taylor Gooch.
Yeah, and the Masters.
The Masters, which is, you can't argue. And his performances in the majors, aside from the U.S. Open, has been pretty darn good. Kind of proves the point that, hey, what we see these weeks, in my opinion, it wouldn't really change. The circumstances.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation at the very least. Producer Josh says he has the money list from 2000. So we get to see Tiger in 2000. He won $9 million. The next closest was Phil at 4.7. So that's a little over half of what Tiger earned. And then Ernie Els at 3.4, which is about a third. Hal Sutton at 3. Hal Sutton at 4. Hal Sutton being jammed in between Ernie Els and Vijay Singh is amusing to me.
Yeah.
And then you go on down: Mike Weir, David Duval, Jesper Parnevik, David Love III, and Big Stu Sink.
Yeah, 10th. $2.1 million gets you 10th on tour.
2.1 gets you like third place in the event this week.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
I don't know do you have the 2024 available? So can we put them side by side at all, producer Josh? That's probably a big ask. I'm just riffing here, but Tiger in 2000 basically doubled up second place, which was Phil. And I think so far Scottie has basically doubled up second place, which is Xander. I think Scottie's at like 27.6 and Xander's at 13 something.
27 million on the course this year.
Yeah. I mean, it's normalized to a percentage of purse won. And I think that so okay, here we go. So this is pre, like, the money from the Travelers has not hit yet. So Scottie's at 24, Xander's at 12, Rory's at 10. I mean, this is actually a pretty good comp for 2000, right?
It's very close. Rory is a little farther up than Ernie. Maybe.
Yeah. I think they're pretty close.
You're right. It is pretty close. It's pretty darn close. Fifth, Ludwig, fifth. 4 times. He's going to end up being like 4 times below.
That's wild.
Which is kind of, pretty close to what VJ was. It's pretty spot on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a pretty cool comp. I might have to use that for a column on Monday or something. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of money, we need to take a look. We need to roll through our best bets. We need to roll through all our bets as well as our one and done. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because it wasn't very pretty, but we will take a gander at it. So let's take a look at our travelers bets. Not great. When Mark is leading the way, that's not necessarily a great thing. I will say there were some near misses here. I had Big Tone outright at 28-1. Rick had Akshay outright at 70, which was a really good one. Anything stick out here, Greg?
Mark had Patrick Cantlay. He touched the lead at one point today.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. Russell Henley was a complete and utter disappointment. We'll talk about that a little later. Shane Lowry top 20. I like that play. He put together quite a round on Friday. You know, I'm not sure if you heard this, Kyle, but Patrick was giving Shane Lowry a really hard time about pizza.
Pizza?
Yeah. He was just saying it. There was something happened. There was a transition, and he was like, "Well, another guy who could probably eat a whole pizza by himself, maybe two." Shane Lowry, but he had a really nice week.
He did have a nice week. The four guys that I was really excited about coming into this week, coming off the U.S. Open, were Lowry, Russell Henley, Sepp Straka, and Tony Finau. And a couple of those worked out. A couple of them did not. And Russell Henley was one of them that did not work out. And I think a lot of us had him kind of in the mix. I know I did in my best bets. I had Russell Henley top 20, which was not good. Never in contention.
No, T48. He shoots 70-73. I mean, he's 3 over through 2 rounds.
So bad on an easy. I mean, the course average was like 68, 69.
I know. It was unbelievable. I mean, there were only a couple of players finished over par for the week.
Yeah.
And Henley gathered a little momentum and played better on the last 2 days. 8 under on the weekend, but still T48 not cutting it.
Yeah, not good. I'm proud of we took some good rips at the outright here between Akshay, Cantlay from Mark, and then my Finau. I think all three of them at least had a share of the lead at one point on Sunday.
Yeah, they did. So it's really, really good.
Yeah. So,
but losers.
Yeah, ultimately losers. Let's take a look at best bets because we had 2 that were not losers. Mark, of course, hit a playoff at plus 350. I love that a playoff and Scottie Scheffler to win are the same number.
Yeah,
they both happen.
It's hysterical.
And Patrick, the odds just keep getting worse, and he keeps betting it, and he keeps hitting it, and he's basically carrying our team right now.
Well, they're better than like you did a top 20. Rick did a top 30. I always do top 20s, top 40s, something in there, and the odds are way better. They're probably it probably is a better, like the title of the segment is the best bet.
Yeah.
And that is, it's crazy to think an outright is the most likely thing to happen. When Scottie Scheffler plays, that's the best bet.
Yep.
So I give him a ton of credit for it.
Patrick's cruising right now. He's up 44% on the year. He's just going to keep riding. I mean, he's like, it's like Secretariat in the 7. I mean, he's just going to ride Scottie until the Tour Championship.
Yeah, and he should.
And it's maybe we all should. Maybe we should just all bet Scottie to win the next,
just
5 times.
Start padding our numbers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point. People are coming to us for best bets. So, one and done was okay, not amazing. We'll start with mine. I had Big Sepp. He shot 61 on Sunday to make it respectable. Rick had Colin Morikawa. I believe Morikawa was the biggest earner out of this group. Patrick had Sepp as well, and then Greg, you and Josh both had Russell Henley, which again, I was on the Rust bus with you, and it was going nowhere fast.
No, going nowhere fast. I was between Cantlay and Henley. Like you said, coming off the U.S. Open, I just kind of felt like I needed this. I needed Cantlay, who I thought could make a real run in the playoffs, and I need to save some guys. So it's disappointing that Henley didn't show up and put on a great week for us, but I think it was still the right play based on where I was heading into the week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. You've got a $4 million lead on Patrick. You've got 8 on Mark, and basically everybody else 9, 10 on me. What's the thought process going into these last 2 months? Where are you at?
Could survive. Like I don't feel very. I feel like I hit what I needed to hit already this year, right? With the U.S. Open,
Bryson.
with the players. Yep. There were some big hits. Rory at the Wells, big hits in signature events.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like hang on, try to get another couple of good weeks in the non-signature events, and hopefully we have a couple of players who play well going into the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a 3-shot lead. You're standing in the middle of the fairway on 16 at TPC Sawgrass, and you're like, just don't hit it in the water a couple of times here, and we're good.
And we're good to go. Right. So I'll take an extra club the rest of the way.
Well, don't take it on 17 because you will hit it in the water there. Who like, are you saving specific guys for those 3 playoff events?
It's not that
Cantlay.
specific. So Cantlay is in there as a guy that I think could like make the Tour Championship and have a good week. So I have him. I have Hovland still, who I'm waiting to like start playing well. I think I have some other guys like Tommy Fleetwood and maybe like a Brian Harmon somewhere in there. I got to go through and look. But it's not about saving specific guys. It's just having, notable players, realistic players that can have, you feel like might be able to win a playoff event.
Yeah, because you're essentially just trying to hit the middle of the green, and everybody else has to be perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're not going to have anything left either. I
right.
can't imagine.
I need Akshay to win like the BMW.
Right.
And I need to pick him.
Those 2 things must happen.
So yeah, you're in a good
spot.
Great spot. This was fun, Greg. They gave us the keys twice this week. Ill-advised, but
we were
the car's still intact, and I had a blast. It was great.
Yeah, I had a blast too. It was nice working with you. I know we'll be working together again tomorrow night, which I'm looking forward to. As this train that is the first cut just keeps on rolling.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you guys enjoyed this, Greg and I running it back. We're gonna put Rick out of it. No, we're not gonna put Rick out of a job. We desperately need him back. It's been fun though. Great evening. Great Travelers Championship. Great ending. Great year for Scottie Scheffler so far. Big thanks to producer Josh running the 1s and 2s. Always does a great job. Greg DuCharme at @TheRealGFD on Twitter. You can follow me at Kyle Porter CBS on Twitter, and we will talk to you on Monday night.